What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Double A Hef here with another dose of the Truth Scope. So before I even get into this video, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Just a quick update. Just so y'all know, there's been some tomfoolery going on my channel. YouTube has been threatening to give me strikes on some of my content. A lot of it being videos that I did about. Not even so much about, the jab and all that stuff. So I'm not even gonna say it because, like I said, they've been threatening your boy heavy, and it's just kind of ridiculous, especially like where we are now, looking back at all of that stuff. So I just want to let y'all know what's going on, just in case any fly stuff happens. You know, y'all know. So anyway, now back to the video at hand. So I'm sure most of y'all brothers out there probably seen or heard Don Lemon talking about reparations the other day to some British chick. After obviously, Queen Elizabeth died, then her son took the throne as king, and so basically he's getting all this money, and then his son Prince William, I think, is looking over his estate. Yada 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 yada. Right, all this stuff, and I'm sure most of y'all really don't care about it, but I'm touching on it because he broached the topic of reparations. Now, for all the things that I talk about on this channel, mainly being, you got to do for yourself, right? All that stuff. Your reality is what you make it, which I stand by, you know what I mean? And obviously, putting the black man back where he needs to be. And that's how we're going to correct the quote unquote black community. So, with all that being said, I don't think I've ever done a video or even a podcast video talking about reparations. So here's I'm gonna first I'm gonna actually play the video, and then I'm gonna break it down, and in doing so I'm going to reveal my take on reparations, because also I saw the other day on the Jason Whitlock Fearless show, podcast, whatever you want to call that. He was talking about reparations and saying how he's not owed reparations, and only thing that's owed is he owes his ancestors and he owes America and all sorts of stuff. And I would use that video to break it down too, but again, like with all the threatening messages I've been receiving from YouTube, I'm going to try to play it soft here. That way, I don't lose the channel, because at this moment I don't currently have a backup. So let's play the video.
Comes on our network. Hillary Ford, which recently made an appearance on CNN, where host Don Lemon asked her about the royal family and reparations. See how this unfolded.
All right, so that's Don Lemon on the left, and he's asking this British chick, I believe, basically about reparations as it pertains to the royal British crown, right? So a few things with that. Number one, unless he's speaking on behalf of the quote unquote blacks in England, then I don't know why he would be asking the crown per se, because the Atlantic slave trade was it wasn't just the British. That was like a global ordeal. All right, it wasn't just the British. Now, because the British, was able to reign supreme over here in the Americas, they got to write their story for the most part, and they are the ones looked down for slavery, but they weren't, like the progenitors of all it is. So from that standpoint, obviously Don doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know history. And am I shocked? No. There's many people out there that don't know true history. So let's play this.
And then you have those who are asking for reparations for colonialism, and they're wondering, $100 billion, $24 billion here and there, $500 million there. Some people want to be paid back, and members of the public are wondering, why are we suffering when you are, you have all of this vast wealth? Those are legitimate concerns.
Well, I think you're right about reparations in terms of...
So he's asking about reparations, right? But he's asking the British crown. So what I would say to Don is, ask the United States government for reparations, because again, the Atlantic slave trade was what, like a 200 plus year ordeal, right? Basically. And for a great part of that, well, at least like almost 100 years of that, America was a country. You know, before America was a country, it was a British colony, whatever. So, so unless he's trying to take it back to that point, but America, the country, exploited quote unquote black slaves. You know, so I would say to him, how about you ask the country that you live in for reparations, right? And not the British damn crown.
People want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa. And when across the entire world, when slavery was taking place, which was the first nation in the world that abolished slavery?
Well, hold on. So she's saying, let's take it back to the beginning. And she's saying that the supply chain started in Africa. Now, so look, slavery has been around since human history, right? As long as humans have been on this damn planet, there has been slavery, right? Okay, so now we understand that part. Slavery as it pertains to like trying to get back to the beginning, like I said, that's literally going all the way back to the beginning. So she needs to address what he's saying in terms of the British Crown's role in it. Now, again, do I agree with him for trying to get that money from the British Crown? No, because I don't see him trying to get it from the U.S. government. So no, I don't from that standpoint. So for her to sit here and try to say, oh, well, let's go back to the root, and the root is in Africa. At the end of the day, you can have all the slaves you want, right? Because, again, slaves has been around forever. But it wasn't as, quote unquote, and I put this in quotes, bad as the Atlantic slave trade was. See, that's the difference. That's the kicker. So when people, not saying that Don Lemon, but when people that know what they're talking about make the claim for reparations for slavery, you can't try to quell that by saying, oh, well, slavery's been going on for all of human history. Yeah, no, we get all of that. We get that part. But there was something different about this time around. You know what I mean? Like the displacement, the name changing. Because before, you could be a slave, you work off your slave debt, and then you know what? You come on out and you got you know who you are, you know who your family is. Your family knows who you are, all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's not like you have no idea where the hell you are, what your name is, what your lineage is, and that's a totally different type of thing. And I'm not saying all this to play into the victimization mindset, not at all. But I am saying that when people bring this up, there is credence to it. There's validity to it. Okay, so I have no issues with people that claim to want quote unquote reparations. I think that it'll be very difficult to achieve, and I think that some people out here probably won't be getting reparations, even though they think they will, just because their skin is quote unquote black. And some people will be getting reparations, even though that they say that they're against it because their skin is quote unquote white. So I think there's going to be a lot that goes on there, because we'd have to do it back to genealogy. We have to literally trace everything back to see, okay, who was enslaved in their lineage, and through the years there's been some marriaging and baby having on both sides, and a lot of intermingling and stuff like that, and then you get the the groups that came over afterwards and all this other stuff. So, and again, I'm not saying that I'm against it. Look, I believe that reparations are owed. If the Jews can get reparations for the Holocaust, and we still didn't get no 40 acres and a mule, you know what I'm saying? So again, now am I sitting here saying that like I'm waiting for that shit and like I'm gonna hold it against the country and all of this stuff if we don't get it? No. That's a far cry. I'm not waiting for that. You know what I mean? I'm not waiting for that. But if we have the discussion, yes, I'm gonna sit here and tell you, like I'm telling you right now. No, that's definitely a valid discussion to have. Now, again, Don Lemon asking the British Crown for it, I don't think that's valid. I think you should be talking to the U.S. government. Okay, because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're the ones that quote unquote freed you, right? They freed you. They had the power to free you, and they did it in 1865. Why wait so long? And then they, again, 40 acres and a mule, and it didn't happen. And then obviously all the Jim Crow, all the blatant, things that they did to, put obstacles in our way. So, and again, this is not from a victimization standpoint. This is just what happened. If you're gonna bring the conversation of reparations up, we need to address what happened and say, okay, well, is that valid or not? And from my perspective, it is valid. You know what I mean? It's definitely valid. So when I heard what's this guy's name, Jason Whitlock, talking about like, oh, we're not owed nothing. I owe Jesus. I owe this. And don't get me wrong, I like his show. I like the topics that he touches on. But every now and again, Jason goes off the deep end with all that extra, like pseudo patriotic Christian nonsense. It's like, my man, like, hold on, bro, hold on. If you know history, this it's not even a debate, really. It's really not even a debate whether or not quote unquote blacks are owed reparations, especially when you look at the global playing field, and how the Jews, they got reparations, and they got a plot of land. They got a plot of land. The world basically cut out Israel, took it away from the Palestinians, and said, "Here, y'all can go live there." All right, and obviously you already know those are those quote unquote Jews. Where did they come from? They didn't come from there. They came from the foothills of the Caucasus Mountains out there in Turkey and all that. You know what I mean? Like, come on, like, this is well documented. So again, when we have this discussion, we need to be able to know what we're talking about. Because if not, you'll wind up sitting here looking like Don Lemon. And again, I don't have any issue with Don bringing it up. The issue is that he wasn't ready for the conversation. And basically, what she's throwing at him isn't even like that's. Look, I'll just play it and I'll break it down.
First nation in the world to abolish it. It was started by William Wilberforce, was the British. In Great Britain, they abolished slavery. 2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages.
Okay, so she's trying to say, oh, the British were the first real, like, big nation to stop slavery. Okay, and so that means that you don't owe reparations to anybody? No. No. And again, I'm not out here like one of these huge like activists for reparations. I know there are people out there doing the groundwork, trying to get it. And hey, look, all power to you. But to sit here and say, oh, well, we're the first ones to stop slavery. Yeah, after you like made all this money off of it, after it benefited you so much. So if anything, that should be more the point as to why you should pay reparations. But anyway, and then she goes on to say, African kings are rounding up their own people. Let me rewind it.
2,000 naval men died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why?
How many men died on the high seas trying to perpetuate slavery? You want to bring out that number like, oh, 2,000 men died trying to stop it. How many died trying to keep it going? So again, people, you can't fall for the okie doke. All right, like Don Lemon's sitting there doing, and like other brothers and sisters have done. I've seen already. It's kind of ridiculous. All right, okay, and how many died to keep it going? How many quote unquote Africans, quote unquote blacks, died trying to stop slavery, the slave trade from starting? Huh? If you're not going to discuss those numbers, if you're not going to discuss those statistics, then I don't need to hear how many Brits died trying to stop it. That's irrelevant to me.
Because the African kings were rounding up their own people.
Again, right there, she said the African kings are rounding up their own people. Correction, they weren't rounding up their own people. They weren't rounding up their own people. And for the brothers that understand where I'm going with this, y'all know. They weren't rounding up their own people. The people that they were shipping off, i.e. us, the people that this channel is talking to, we weren't them. Just like when we're over here today and we see them, we know off the rip, that's an African nigga. He African. We can tell. We're not the same. We are not the same. We're not the same now. We weren't the same then. Okay? We are not the same now. We weren't the same then. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that's like, oh, well, that's because that was 300 years ago. And, evolution and, mixing of the genders and rape and all sort of stuff. You understand something, man? We got to stop going for these fucking narratives. Okay? Because think about it. We have pictures from the like portraits or paintings from like the 1800s, right? We know what the fuck George Washington looked like, right? We know what he looked like. We know what Abraham Lincoln looked like. We know what all these motherfuckers look like, right? Now, do we look at them and say, oh my God, they look so much different from the people that we see today? No, because not much has changed, because that whole evolution shit is some bullshit. That's why. Not much has changed, because nothing changes. So just like how we could look at a quote unquote African today, and you be like, that is not, like, no, I'm saying, he African. I don't know what part of Africa he from, but he African. Or she African, or they African. It was the same back then. So when we were over there, right, making our way through, the African kings, they weren't riling up their own people and slaving them and selling them into slavery and all that stuff. No, it was us. We stood out. We didn't belong. The quote unquote white man's coming over asking for slaves, and they're gonna pay him. He's like, okay, here, take them. They not my people. So this quote unquote Caucasian woman is touching on history, right? Touching on it. Don't know it, but she's touching on it. And Don Lemon silly ass over here sitting, he don't know what the fuck's going on. He just a goddamn a mouthpiece, just saying something that he heard, like reparations, you know what I'm saying? So. Yo, man, this is something.
Them on cages, waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right.
Yeah, but again, so they were in cages on beaches. Why? Because they were conditioned to do so, because they knew that either the British or the Portuguese, I think the Spanish were already done by the end times. Who else? The Belgium? What the fuck them niggas is called? Belgium? I don't know. That escapes me. If you're from Belgium, what are you called? Beliche? I don't know. I gotta look that up. But anyway, the Belgian crown, all of them, they were still like those African kings knew, hey, we get these niggas, we bring them over to the beach, put them in the cage, they gonna come, right? So you want to sit here and say, oh, they were putting them on cages on the beach and no one was coming for them. Yeah, that's because out of nowhere I was like, let's just stop. But they were already conditioned to do that. Why? Again, look, it's not like they were just doing that, and then one day a British ship just sailed by and was like, oh shit, there's some motherfuckers in the cage over there. Let's go see what's going on. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. We know that's not what happened. So again, Don Lemon, shame on you for not knowing enough to be able to fucking to extinguish this bullshit narrative that she's trying to put in front of you.
And died on the high seas trying to stop slavery. Why? Because the African kings were rounding up their own people. They had them on cages, waiting in the beaches. No one was running into Africa to get them. And I think you're totally right. If reparations need to be paid, we need to go right back to the beginning of that supply chain and say, who was rounding up their own people and having them handcuffed in cages? Absolutely. That's what.
Well, so no, again, it wasn't their own people, number one. And number two. You want to go back to the beginning, you're saying, and which I know you're just saying that to try to get it off. All right? You think you know shit and you don't, because ultimately, say we entertain that. Let's take it back to the beginning. Okay, so those African kings, right? They got the money for the slaves, but the slaves created way more wealth and revenue for the buyers than the kings got. All right, that wasn't an equal trade-off. Okay? It wasn't an equal trade-off by any stretch of the imagination, number one. Okay? And number two, what happened after the kings sold the us, basically, they didn't know that what was going to happen. They didn't know that they were going to bring us over here and then try to freaking strip us of all humanhood and dignity and all that stuff, because that's not how slavery was going on. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some grotesque things that took place at certain points throughout human history in regards to slavery, like skinning people and stuff like that. But during that time, for like the past like 1,000 years, I believe so, it was basically like a indentured servitude, kind of. All right, like you're going to be a slave for 7 years, you're going to work this off, and then when you're done, you go back to your family and stuff like that. They didn't know. All right, so again, we have to keep all of that in mind when we're having this discussion. You know, like, oh, well, slavery is slavery. No, there's different types of slavery. Okay, and again, this isn't to reinforce the victimhood mindset. None of that. Look, at the end of the day, you need to do what the hell you got to do on a day-to-day to make the life that you want. All right. Now, if reparation checks start coming through, cool. Add that to what you already got going on. If they don't come through, cool. You should have enough going on anyway to, you know, you shouldn't even be thinking about it. That's my mindset. So again, I'm not a one that's going to be out here on the front lines like, oh, I demand reparations. No, not at all. But again, if the discussion is to be had, you know, that those are the points that, as far as I'm concerned, you know, can't really be refuted. You know, if you truly know history and understand what's happened before, especially using the quote unquote Jews as a reference, hey, they got right. So, you know, but we should get, you know, we are owed that. But anyway, y'all, I think this video is over.
They should start, and maybe, I don't know, the descendants of those families where they died in the high seas trying to stop the slavery, that those families should receive something too, I think, at the same time.
Oh, really? I'm sure it's wow. Hold on, yo, and the fact that Don Lemon had nothing to say to this.
That's where they should start, and maybe, I don't know, the descendants of those families where they died in the high seas trying to stop the slavery, that those families should receive something too, I think.
So you see how circular her bullshit ass argument is or was. She literally just said, oh, we should take it back to the beginning. And then she said, oh, well, and if we are going to do it, then the people that died trying to stop slavery in the high seas, their family should get something too then. Right. So trying to stop something that you started, or maybe not started, but definitely like willfully took part in. Now you're owed something? No. That's not how that goes. That's not how that goes. That's like I start a fire in my house, knock on wood, right? And then I put the fire out, right? But in doing so, I lost some belongings and stuff like that, right? And then I'm like, well, I'm old. Well, nigga, you started the fire. I'm saying, you started that shit. Or like, say I come home and there's a fire already going on in my house. I didn't start the fire, you know, knock on wood, right? And then I'm chilling. I'm like, you know, this fire, you know, it's cool. You know, it's keeping me warm and shit. You know, I'm just chilling. You know, this is pretty cool to look at. And I'm like, well, you know what? I don't want my whole damn house to burn down, so let me put a stop to this fire, right? So I put a stop to the fire, and then I'm like, well, shit, I lost some of my belongings in this fire, man. So I'm old. Y'all owe me for this fire. No, I was right there with the fire, chilling in the fire, taking pictures next to the fire, doing all next to the fire. Now I decided to finally put the fire out. Now I'm going to say, oh, well, I lost some shit during the fire. So, no, lady, no. And again, shame on you. Shame on Don Lemon. Shame on people not talking about this. Shame on, shame on all of y'all. Shame. Because this is some real elementary type shit. You know, all right? This is some real elementary type stuff right here. Excuse my language, but it's just I can't take it. I can't take it serious because she said all that just to come back and say the people that died on the high seas should receive something. From who? From who, lady? If you're that concerned, from who? Oh, the quote unquote African kings. Oh, the same quote unquote African kings that had Africa cut up because you had all these European powers coming in and literally like slicing up Africa like it was a freaking pizza pie, right? And taking all the natural resources and all of the stuff from Africa, right? Right? So how the hell could they even pay reparations when the money that they made off the slave trade, y'all done took back tenfold, 20-fold already through exploitation. But anyway, y'all, please do me a favor, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm out.